everybody. Welcome back to So You Want to Be in Ministry. I am Tim, and we are all about educating you if you're thinking about jumping into ministry, equipping you if you're already in ministry, and encouraging you if you're thinking about jumping out. We also want to empower you to follow godly leaders. So wherever you're at in the scope of that, we hope that the episode today does some of that for you. Today, we get to interview and have a conversation with Russ Matthews. If you go back to episode 14, we had him on. So he is a movie critic. He's also a missionary in Sydney, Australia. He's a great guy. He has a great eye for film. He loves and enjoys film, but he also enjoys using it to have gospel conversations, and he does that very uniquely. So I am so excited to get back into this because he has released his second book. He asked me to do some of the editing, reading, and beta reading for it. I can tell you it's a very, very good book. If you did read The Word Becomes Film, his first book, this just carries over again. He has a unique writing style where he can get a lot of depth for characters very, very quickly, and he always sets it up for you to be able to have conversations about God as a result of this book. And he equips you. He does so many things for you to be a mentor in somebody's life and to be someone who shares the gospel with somebody in your life. Enough of me talking about it. Let's talk to him about it. Let's get into this interview with Russ. Well, Russ, welcome back to the podcast, man. Glad to have you back.
I know, man. You always wonder with these podcasts if you're ever going to get invited back. And so the fact that you wanted me to come back is pretty amazing. So I'm pretty pumped to be here. And thanks so much for having me, Tim.
Absolutely, man. And hey, you made it easy to have you back with real purpose, just even sooner than I would have expected because you got your second book coming out. I'm excited about this book. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, well, so The Maker's Quest, it's a Cyrus Rover adventure. Interestingly enough, I had another book planned that kind of follow on after The Word Becomes Film, but then really this story came out for me, and I just was able to kind of get it down to paper if you want to, or actually type it out. And it just is one I fell in love with, and also it seems that everyone else has enjoyed it so far. So Cyrus Rover is a young filmmaker who is on a bike ride. I mean, actually going to work one day, and he runs into a truck and ends up in a coma. And during this time, while he's actually in his hospital bed in a coma, he travels through a spiritual journey that's kind of like Pilgrim's Progress. Now, that might be a reference that some may not be familiar with, but it's a famous John Bunyan story where they kind of go through and he meets different mentors along the way. And most of them are mentors from famous or classic films that he has loved in his life. But these mentors are able to kind of speak into his life. Each one of them kind of represent a different attribute of God and really kind of moves him along on his journey, specifically in coming to know the Maker, which is why it's called The Maker's Quest. And so this is a fascinating book as just far as for me, being kind of for young adults and also teens and kind of seeing the spiritual journey. But then on top of it, too, his family, they're actually going through this whole spiritual journey on the outside of his experience themselves. And so they kind of go through and see the value of prayer and also the impact that it has on the medical staff.
Yeah, I loved, so I have gotten to read this, and
yeah,
I loved the each chapter basically being a different film. So my own personal game in the whole reading was like, can I figure out what movie this is? Like, I was having fun with that. Yeah, it was like a little personal trivia game, and I was just trying to figure it out. Yeah, that was a lot of fun for me.
Oh, Tim, you know what? It's so funny because all those that I've had proof it. So I've had some different teens, some different young adults, and also other professionals go through and read it. And most of them have played that game because initially I was a little bit more on the nose and actually utilized key famous characters from films. Okay. But my editor at the end got to the end and he goes, "Hey, this is a great book. I really love what you're kind of doing. You're moving everybody through these genres, but you're going to have to get yourself a really good lawyer." And I'm going, "What?" And he's going, "Well, almost every single one of these characters is trademarked. And so you are going to have a problem getting this film." It's kind of like Ready Player One, where they had some challenges with that one. Yeah. And so what we did is we went back and rewrote it. And so each one has a different genre that is represented. And so each one of the mentors is actually one mentor who's actually manifests himself in different ways. But what's been fun, Tim, is talking with people and going, "So who did you think it was?" And how different people kind of bring in some of their favorite characters
Yeah.
that really help to speak into their lives. And so it's been kind of fun just to kind of see what people think. And it is a fun game to kind of get to play.
And I could see that happening because there were times where I would go, "Oh, this is so and so," and then as I kept reading, I was like, "Maybe not. Maybe it's somebody." So like, yeah. And then I was just like, maybe he doesn't even intentionally mean any of this. I don't know.
That's
So,
right.
it
Oh,
was
and
fun.
and that's the thing. It's really more the messaging. I mean, you
Yeah.
want them to connect with the mentor, which is great, but really what you want to do is be able to see kind of the key attributes of it. Because that's one of the things we actually include in the book. It's actually Cyrus Rover's journal, where you can travel through and actually be in each one of the kind of genres, as it were. And there's a discussion guide that goes along with kind of the key themes. So be it justice or kind of redemption and all these different aspects that kind of are brought out in Cyrus Rover's journey. And so that's kind of what we are able to do. But I think it also hopefully is fun for people to be able to kind of look at, oh, who would that be? Or who is that in my life? And who is, because also different generations, different mentors.
So when they're using, when they're reading through this book, and who do you see using this, and in what setting? Let's get that first before I jump into the
Yeah.
next question.
I think there's two key audiences. I know that's kind of dangerous sometimes, but I think that's what we really do at Third Space and City Bible Forum is really kind of first look at the Christian as a way for them to start the conversation and be able to hand this book to someone and be able to get them started on kind of a journey of themselves and kind of learning how we can have a conversation about God, about Bible, about Jesus in a very natural way. And I think that's what's great about this book. You can just kind of hand that to anyone and they would be able to kind of take it on different ways, but also be able to start a conversation. So it's for the Christian to be able to kind of help start those conversations about the gospel and about the Bible. But also it's a great gift and a great opportunity to give to somebody who's inquiring about the Christian faith, somebody who kind of wants to know a little bit more, but wants to see that it kind of goes a little deeper and it actually can influence not only their lives, but also even literature and actually film and all these things that God really can have kind of a say in that. But then also for them to be able to kind of ask questions and even engage with it because they can also engage with the discussion guides that come along with the story. And so it's really for those Christians who really are interested in kind of getting the conversation started about the Bible and God. And also it's for those who are inquiring about Christianity and kind of want to see kind of a unique way of kind of seeing how this spiritual journey works.
Yeah, and with that, these discussion guides, these you can get from your website, like a hidden page or something right along the way. Is that am I thinking through that correctly?
Exactly. Well,
Yeah.
so we've got it. You have two different options. So one, you can go through Cyrus Rover's journal. What's nice about Cyrus Rover's journal is that you can actually kind of travel along with him
Oh,
in the book, and you could do it with somebody. So you could almost do it as a study together, and kind of you're traveling through. You read this chapter, then you click on the link, and it does take you to the Third Space website. And what that does is gives you the discussion guide. It kind of gives a little bit more biblical backup, as I would call it, to kind of understanding what the theme is really meant to do and also what they can understand about God through this.
I love that. So I love that aspect because too often I see authors try to include all of that into the actual book and you just get
Right.
muddied down in the story and it's like you lose the story that you were trying to capture. You do a great job of navigating the story. This is more of an author question, so I'm kind of stepping out a little bit here, but
Sure.
I am curious because in both books that I've read, you seem to do a very good job of getting depth to character very quickly. Like
Mm,
your chapters aren't long; they're like 4, 5, 6 pages. You're through the
right.
chapter. It's a quick read. I say that because if you go get this book and you want to share it with somebody or do a Bible study or something with somebody and engage them, they are not going to get bored, and it is interesting.
Thanks,
So
Tim. I appreciate that.
if you're out there listening, be encouraged by that. So as they're getting in and engaging and they're going to get involved with these characters, how do you do that? Like, how do you do that in just a matter of like paragraphs? Like you start really connecting with these characters.
You know what, Tim? I'll probably give credit to all the guys that have kind of built into my life over the past 10 years since I've kind of done the review writing and all that, all the various editors that I've kind of worked along with, and saying less is more. And so,
Mm.
really kind of cutting in and saying, do you really need all of the flowery language and all the things, which is great. I mean, the poetic elements and that sort of thing, but also knowing your target audience, because I'm kind of thinking of this book primarily for kind of a young adult and
Hmm.
teens audience. you can't be kind of getting them bogged down in all the details because they will get lost in the minutia of it all. So opposed to just kind of getting straight to it as best as you can, but also kind of just working with it and also being willing to take feedback. Because I mean, I hand this book over to other people to be able to kind of look at and say, hey, did this connect with you? What did you see this about it? And so I think it's kind of a matter of getting feedback from others to be able to kind of help you with that, but then also having a very clear picture of who this person is. And so I think that it kind of helps you to, if you're writing fiction specifically, that you actually kind of have a clear idea of who this person is. And so you can add that in and you can layer it in along the way. Hopefully, as you've seen kind of in the book, his story isn't given. I don't give everything about him in the first chapter.
Mm-mm.
It's kind of layered in throughout, his family background, all the heritage, all the things that are kind of happening. And so within that, you can still have the action of the story, but then also you kind of layer in the components that kind of fill in the gaps, as they say, for that. So I'm not, I'm not going to sit there and say, hey, yeah, I've got it all figured out. I don't, but I do love these characters. And I think that when you kind of connect with them to such a degree that you can kind of add that in and kind of add the nuance without having to go into too much detail. But I love too, I just want to add, we try to keep the books to about 150 pages so that it's an easy read. It's a fast read, but also it's one that hopefully has enough depth that people can kind of come away asking questions as well as when they're searching for answers.
Yeah, I think it does that, and that's why I love that you put the guidelines and the journal on the outside if you want to walk through it, because you can read all the stuff in the background as you're just navigating through a week, and then when you get together, you can process the study guide or the more biblical aspects. You could do that together right there, and you don't have to worry about reading the story and doing all this Bible stuff. And you're right there when they're
Exactly.
navigating with them. Like you're literally becoming the mentor to them along the way.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm glad. Wow, you're selling it for me here, Tim. I mean, I think but I think that's one of the key points is that too is like just let the story tell the story
Yep.
and kind of allow it just kind of unfold. But then hopefully most of these things kind of help kind of scratch those itches where people are going, well, I really would love to have somebody speaking in my life about that.
Hmm.
And so you hopefully would be able to find those people in your actual life and the realities of life, but also to be able to have a book that kind of travels through and kind of helps you and kind of making those big decisions in life too.
What were some of the characteristics of the young adult generation that just stood out to you as that you wanted to capture in this book as you wrote it to trigger thoughts, trigger emotions, trigger reactions for them?
Yeah, well, it's been a while since I've been a young adult. I will admit it. But so as far as me tapping into my own kind of my memories and my background, but then on top of it, I do have children that are kind of in that category and kind of seeing what they're traveling through and seeing this, and also even in our church family, seeing the questions that they're asking that are really classic questions that we've all asked throughout the decades as far as who am I? What is this on about? How do I make a good decision in life? How does God even factor into
Mhm.
my life? These things aren't new, but I
Hmm.
think that it's just kind of having a different way of kind of coming at it. Each generation kind of has a different way of kind of asking the same questions. And so that's kind of one of the things I think we do, especially at Third Space, is kind of look at we're all asking the same questions, and they've really the questions that have been around since the beginning of time. But yet, how are we doing it now? And so I find that that's probably one of the key reasons I kind of use film in so much of my ministry with Real Dialogue and also Third Space is it's a visual generation. So to help them to kind of see the picture and see what's going on will help them then also to be able to kind of understand and read the story itself.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. Also, you have the extra chapters, so you tie up all the loose ends, like you take care of it, which is important.
It's important. Also, it's um, I'll just say this for the sake of my marriage. It's one of the things I've learned. Say my wife Kathy is an amazing. She's one of my like sub editors. She's
Okay.
incredible, but she can't stand it when a film finishes and they're like, going, "Well, what happened to that person? Well, what
Yep.
happened to that person?" But one thing too is I love my editor. She and actually my publisher. She came to me. She goes, "What happens next?" And
Yeah.
so we end up writing what's called the lost chapter. I wrote the lost chapter, and it kind of takes us to the next step because there's so much possibilities with this. It's not a
Mhm.
multiverse, as it were, but it definitely there's so many opportunities and also so many other aspects of God and his attributes that we can really delve into. So hopefully that's a free gift that comes with the book too. You can actually get the lost chapter. It's kind of a what's next, maybe. We'll see.
Yeah, it's fun. It was fun. Like when you said that to me, I was like, "Oh, all right, yeah, I appreciate it." I was so appreciative of that. That was
Very
nice.
cool.
So you talked about third space. Actually,
Right.
before we get into third space, because I know there's some adjustments there and stuff. Tell us when the book is coming out, because it's coming out very soon. This is going to launch for us. This is launching tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
Wow.
so for you, it's launching today, like because
Right.
you're on
Exactly.
today. So that's an
I'm talking to
Australian
you
joke.
from the future.
I know
Woohoo.
that's an Australian joke right there, everybody. So
That's right.
you're already in tomorrow. This will release for me tomorrow.
Tomorrowland.
But that being said, when does the book launch? And talk to us a little bit about how to get the resources and things like that.
Yeah, sure. Oh, thanks so much, Tim. Yeah, so it's pretty easy. It's coming out on the 12th of May. And so you can actually pre-order the ebook if you want to right now, and then that'll actually show up in your Kindle or wherever your e-reader is. And you can get that from Amazon. So you can go to amazon.com there in the United States, or pretty much Amazon anywhere in the world. What's incredible about this service too is that if you order the book itself, if you order it within 2 to 3 days, it'll show up at your doorstep. So it's a pretty amazing thing that you're able to do through Amazon. So Amazon is kind of one of the key places you'll be able to do that. You can also go to Third Space, so thirdspace.org.au. That's thirdspace.org.au or realdialogue.com. And you'll be able to find the book there and be able to order it that way too. So those, and the other thing too is that all the proceeds from this book, they're not kind of filling Russ Matthews' pocket. This is going back to the ministry specifically of Real Dialogue and Third Space. So this book, all the proceeds from it go to benefit the organization itself and help with us furthering on resources. And so that's where you can get the book. So either at Amazon, wherever you are in the world, or thirdspace.org.au. But then on top of it, you can go to Third Space, go to the website, and our discussion guides and all the other things that are there, plus all of our film reviews from Real Dialogue. We have we constantly are doing our Real Dialogue reviews, and those are also written for the Christian to be able to consider how would you get the conversation started about God from all the films that are kind of coming out. And then also, if you're an inquirer, be able to kind of consider, oh, there's something deeper to consider, even from any of the films that come into cinemas or on streaming. And so we hopefully be able to add that service on with realdialogue.com.
Yeah, I cannot recommend checking out Real Dialogue and all of the movie reviews, because even if you don't want to see the movie, it can give you a quick reference check where you can talk about it and know that you got this like Bible aspect in the background when you're having a conversation. You just it's equipping you to be prepared, even if you don't care about the film at all. So like it gives you
That's right.
it gives you something to reference. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because you may not watch all the movies, but other people do. And so
Yep.
to be able to even kind of speak into it, because we'll first evaluate the quality of the film. So we do have a rating system that kind of evaluates the quality of the film. But then we do make sure that we add something that comes from, and that's one of the things we really challenge people to do, is that I feel that we've talked about this in the past, every micro story of a movie or a book points back to the meta story that is God's story. And so that we're able to kind of not do that in a weird gear crunch moment. It's really something that's quite simple for us to be able to do when you really start looking at the bigger aspects of who God is and really how he writes so much into our lives.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk about Third Space for a little bit, because I know you're making some adjustments there. You're redeveloping a little
Yeah.
bit. So talk to us about that.
It's really exciting. We've been working with Third Space over the past few years, but I think one of the things is kind of looking at what is the primary purpose of Third Space. And we kind of came down on two key elements. It's really kind of at the beginning of the, if you want to call it, evangelistic process of getting the conversation started. And so it's really helping people to engage through different conversation pieces. We have all these various ministries and law and accounting and movies and all these and media that we're able to kind of help people to kind of start the conversation and consider how God can factor into their lives. And so but the third space is really, it's not work, it's not home, it's kind of that safe place where you can go and have a conversation with somebody about the deeper issues of life and ask those deeper questions that even we were talking about before. And so we move from the conversation, but also developing communities where people can have that atmosphere where they can talk about God and the Bible, but also just talk about life and kind of ask some of those deeper questions as they kind of go along. And the main intent and purpose is really to kind of help people move towards a relationship with Christ, and then also be involved in your local church once they come to know Jesus. So that's kind of what we do at Third Space, and that's why we've kind of whittled it down to kind of that's what it's about. It's really conversations and community. We're not there to replace the church. Our goal is to get people into good Bible believing churches in their local community. But the thing is we got to meet them where they are. I think many times we think that, oh, I'll just invite them to come to church. Well, most cultures, that is not necessarily the first thing people are going to want to do is go to church. So why not meet them where they are and have those conversations, build those communities, and then hopefully move them towards that relationship with Christ and the church.
Yeah, it's much easier for them to get a relationship with you first rather than your church first.
That's right. Well,
And
they'll want to come to your church once they know you, but
yeah,
hopefully,
yeah,
hopefully,
yeah,
hopefully that's the case. But that's the point. I think that it's really kind of, and it's not that hard. I think a lot of times people think, oh, I've got to have all this Bible training and all that. I said, I don't know. If you've been in a good Bible believing church for any length of time, I think you're definitely equipped to be able to have those conversations. But it's also just, how about being a friend, even to those who don't know Jesus yet? They're all looking for it. They're all looking for those connections. And so allow for us to be able to do that. And so that's really what we're striving to do with Third Space, and really make it simpler. So we'll have on the website, it's going to be introduced here in probably the next few weeks, is how you be able to start those conversations, say with like God in 60 Seconds, Real Dialogue, and other ministries. But then how you also would even start some of those community groups. And it's just at any place, you can get at your local coffee shop, at your local university, wherever it is that you want to start those conversations and start those communities.
yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite places that I'm involved in, even as a pastor, is our local Chamber of Commerce, and
Yeah.
I absolutely love going and just building relationships there, and I never know where it's going to go. And I had a secretary of another business. They attended our church, and I was just doing a follow-up call with her, and she told me, yeah, my boss and I were talking about you because you made a comment at the Chamber of Commerce. So I was like, whoa, like that's a
There you go.
weird circle there. But I got the answer. So I know what it was. I got the answer right because I was thinking of Third Space, because they said, does anybody know? It wasn't Third Space, but it was Third something, what Third something businesses are or something like that. I can't remember.
Oh, okay.
And I guessed, I was like, is that like you have your home and you have your job, and this is like where you go in between? And they were like, exactly. And I was like, thanks, Russ.
Glad we could equip you, Tim.
Yeah, Russ gave me that one. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, so I got to have a gospel conversation even off of all of that. And it's been cool to see what God's doing in that. Well, tell us, is there anything else going on, like updates or whatever? Give us a little bit of what might be happening that I didn't even bring up.
Oh yeah, no. So those are some of the biggest things kind of happening with us in relationship to the book coming out. But then on top of it, we've got, we have all the various ministries that are going on here in Australia, specifically like the Sydney Prayer Breakfast and all these other things that are occurring. But I think the big things would be the book with the Maker's Quest coming out, then also with Third Space, just the opportunities of really be able to start those conversations and start those communities and be able to do it in kind of a natural atmosphere for you as well as for those who you're trying to reach. And so that's what we're really striving to do. So yeah, we're doing pretty good. I mean, busy life with the grandkids and the kids, and everybody's kind of going every different direction, but we're really enjoying the season we're in right now. I'm very thankful.
Yeah, I would say if you see you on social media at all, if people are following, you can see you guys are having a lot of fun doing a lot of things as just married couple and then parents, grandparents. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks,
Cool,
Tim.
man. Well, I appreciate you so much for being on, dude. Thanks for coming back.
Hey man, I thoroughly enjoyed it, Tim. I really appreciate your ministry, because also I think this is a great challenge for people to be able to see the fact that there is so much that goes on, to be able to kind of get this. Actually goes to right to what we're trying to do with the Maker's Quest, of mentoring people and showing them how they can actually continue on in ministry. Because sometimes I think you can feel pretty lonely out there. So I really appreciate your ministry, and what you're able to do is kind of investing in people's lives. And so we're praying for you and thankful for you.
Thank you so much. The loneliness of ministry is a very real thing. So
It is
yeah,
a great thing.
thank you for
Yeah.
saying that. That's real, man. Alrighty, dude. Well, I look forward to the next time I get to have you on.
Yeah, man. Well, yeah, we'll see what the next book or something like that comes
Yeah,
along, but we'll definitely see it, and hopefully maybe we can do this in person sometime in the future.
I would love to do that too.
Okay.
Alrighty, man. See ya.
Thanks, Tim.
I absolutely love Russ. No doubt about it. I love him. I love his ministry. I love what God's doing with him. He just has a way of tying different aspects of ministry and different aspects of our world and tying them together so that he sets you up to have gospel conversations. Make sure that you check out this book. I'll put links out there in the descriptions of these podcast episodes. I'll try to post on social media where to find all of it, where to get all of the resources and everything from him on Third Space and Real Dialogue and all those different places. Make sure you check that out. It is well worth your time. You will not be disappointed. You will not be embarrassed. You will get something out of it. You will have a lot of fun, and you will enjoy reading his books. I can just tell you that they're good. He's a good author, and the content and the ministry that he has is really good too. So check it out. Involve yourself in it. If you enjoy this podcast, you'll enjoy what he's doing as well. Thank you so much for checking out this podcast episode. We're glad to have you along for the ride and out with us today. I hope to see you next time.